Hello. My name is Piotr Mirowski. I heard there was another one presenting earlier today, but the difference between him and me is that during the day he works at DeepMind, and for me, at night and weekends, I work on AI improv comedy. So and also he doesn't wear glasses. So I would like to talk to you about something I've been working on the side, which is improvised theater with robots and AI. So we already heard a great presentation from Christoph about how much bullshit can machine generate. This will be exactly about that. Basically, if this thing works, yes, I would like to start with a little quiz. I would like you to watch very carefully that video, and you need to answer the question, who wrote the following song? So let's see if the sound works.
Across the floor, there he was, and I knew I wanted a lot more than just a hand, just a look, just a glance. I wanted to take my chance. And that night, as he held me in his arms, and he showed me all of his southern charms, and I knew that I could be the one before the night was done. Oh, my love, you came to me, and then you left, and then you left. Oh, my love, you came to me, and then you left, and then you left. Just
So, now let's proceed with a quiz. Who wrote the song? You don't know? Well, the answer is there. The Showstoppers, an improvised musical. Basically, this was the maybe 900 of the musicals that they made. They've done over 1,000 now. Every single one of them is fully improvised. That means when they walk on the stage, they have no idea what they are going to do that night. They collect a suggestion of a title of a musical, 5 suggestions of different musical genre, and it all relies on quite a lot of knowledge about how musical improv works. Basically, if you want to audition with them, you have to have seen 250 musicals before even trying to audition with them. So it is an example of improvisation. And let me ask you another question. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
train really hard.
Yes, practice, practice, practice. That's the joke. Anyway, basically, improv is about having done your homework. And once you have mastered a task, and you basically have practiced it in and out, then you can try to make things up based on all the knowledge that you have accumulated. It's similar to jazz in that sense. And some researchers in computational theater have described both jazz and improv theater as real-time dynamic problem solving. And you can imagine that even this could be considered as a test of intelligence. Improv is about justifying what happens, justifying what the other people say, justifying what you feel, justifying what the audience has suggested. And it is about saying yes and. Yes, which means accepting the offer, and which means going further and taking it further. So it is about collaboration, as Maciej said earlier. You have to make the stage partner look good. And I have a friend of mine who actually would do improv comedy with a random audience member who never did improv, and it was all about making them look good on the stage. It is about doing the most obvious thing, which is surprisingly hard, because we have all those social constructs that make us wear those stupid clothes and to pretend that we look smart. No, we don't care about that. In improv, it's about thinking like children would think, and considering adults as an atrophied version of children. This is what Keith Johnstone, one of the theoreticians of theater and improv, has said. And yes, Gio Barnard said in a different way, no, but you knew how to do this when you were 6 years old, and then, well, life just got out in the way. This enables to basically embrace the absurd that emerges from the confrontation of various ideas. This is an example of the so-called Exquisite Corpses. And it's a game which was played by the surrealists in the 20s. And an example of this, and that's where the name comes from, is several people lining up, and every person knows only what the last word that was said, and they have to add an additional word. So nobody has a full knowledge of the full sentence. They only have a partial knowledge, partial observations of what is being produced. Le cadavre exquis boira le vin nouveau. This sentence has been generated using this bigram as a single constraint. And it is very poetic. The exquisite corpse will drink the new wine. I myself have been doing improv as long as I've been doing research on AI, for about 20 years. And also I took some drama classes because you can get a life, even if you work on AI. So, and I even managed to get people to come and see me on the stage. Some were had to. So anyway, 6 years ago, I was working on a search engine, and I was crying silently at night because nobody was using that search engine. It was not Google. And it was really sad, in a way. But it was motivating, you know, hardship, the hero journey. So basically, the idea was to to work on predictive text and specifically search query auto-completion. So you have a search engine, you start typing the letter I, it suggests various stuff, and as you get more precise and more specific, it actually makes more and more specific suggestions. So what happens is that you provide more and more context, and that predictive text is based on the context that you have provided it. So in the case of a search engine, it can be the location, time of the day, and maybe previous searches. In the case of an improviser on the stage, well, it's there, the context is in front of them. And also the context is all the cultural baggage that they have. And the idea is, don't try to be funny. Just say the most obvious thing that comes to your mind. So I had an epiphany. Well, obviously, improviser, predictive word, it's the same thing, right? I mean, well, one has human intelligence, the other is just a stupid algorithm. But anyway, let's try to measure those things together. So using statistical language models, which we, I think, already mentioned, developed by Claude Shannon, the first person who did it, trying to model the probability of a word given the previous context, like the fat cat sat on the mat, will have a higher probability than the fat cat sat on the, based on the data. Language models which are actually used, well, in all those products that we use, like machine translation. I thought about bringing the neural network on the stage. So a recurrent neural network, and whoops. Yeah, and the way this worked was the following. Glasses, that's the most important thing. And then I would have this little headset microphone, which would listen to me. And I would try to use speech recognition to make it work. And this way, I would say something, it would be speech recognized, sent to the chatbot, which was a recurrent neural network trained on movie dialogue from 100,000 films using the Open Subtitles corpus. And as I would finish the sentence, a few seconds later, the chatbot would pick that sentence, generate a suggestion, and a few seconds later, an eternity on the stage, the machine would produce a response, which would be sent to the loudspeaker and also to this little guy here, a robot who would move as the sound we generated. And I tried to make improvised scenes with this. It was eye-opening. I met, luckily, about the same time, a friend online, which proves that you can actually meet nice people online. His name is Cory. He lives in Canada. And he had the same idea. He used a simpler chatbot, and he made a show out of it as well in 2016. That's when we started working on this. And we connected. I mean, I sent him like a 20,000-word email, and 3 days later, he jumped on a plane, and we met in London. Well, he was actually traveling to London. But we spent 3 hours talking, etc., and we started a beautiful friendship. We actually started doing shows together remotely using Skype or Hangouts. We called it long-distance relationship, and there was this magic of Skype disconnecting in the middle of a show, and the excitement that would it work or not. So then we decided, wow, let's crank it up. Let's make a first transatlantic AI improv show in 2 theaters. the Tristan Bates Theatre in London and the Curious Comedy Theatre in Portland, Oregon, with 2 chatbots, and we would connect them together. And we would have 6 computers on each side, or maybe, and cameras and audiences live audiences watching each other. And there was actually a magical moment in the show when we took the webcam and the webcam on the other side, and the audience actually said hello, waved to the other side. That was quite nice. Well, that was nice. But of course, improv is about embracing failure. So the speech recognition didn't work almost at all. These nonsensical chatbot suggestions, that is a given. The Wi-Fi dropped. We had some disconnection. The robots burned. And last but not least, there was some scheduling problem. So basically, normally there's an 8-hour time difference between London and Portland, Oregon. But there is a window of time when it's not 8 hours, it's 7 hours. And we didn't have... Basically what happened is that half an hour into Cory's show, there was a wedding rehearsal scheduled, because we started the show an hour later than they thought. And so anyway, so Cory was chased out of the stage by a bridezilla and a groomzilla. It was, so he finished the show from, anyway. And that's me 5 minutes into the show. That's the stains of sweat. And that's the tech. You know what? There is something about, the reviewer came that day as well. 2 stars, chaotic, never work with robots. You know what? Scientists do the same thing. Thomas J. Watson, who maybe not the best person in the world, but he still was one of the founders of IBM, said, if you want to succeed, double your failure rate. And that's actually a good lesson for everybody. Of course, at some research companies, I don't know, DeepMind, they fail all the time. Like all those computations that are running, most of them are just failures. Because that's how learning works, actually. You learn from your failures. So we learned, continued failing, of course, and we actually physically met. We did some Edinburgh Festival, Fringe shows. We met Colin Mockery, who's a friend of Cory, for those who know improv comedy. And then we took it further and further. We added more people to the team. Started getting some coverage. Started getting some better. And actually realized that the best thing in all that is humans, obviously. So what happens is that we actually created a company called Robotics with a live Turing test. So in that case, what happens is that they're all so-called cyborgs who get their instructions from this thing here, which is on one side of a cable, there is something. Oh, yes, that. A headset. And that headset is how they listen to the machine, generating instructions. And everything they say comes from the chatbot, but they can add emotion, physicality, subtext. The humans are doing the storytelling. They have to justify what's going on. And then there are human curators whose role basically is to choose among multiple suggestions made by the AI. So for instance, if that's the input to the AI, I love you, the AI might generate, the chatbot might generate different kinds of answers. And the curator can choose the one that makes the most sense given the context. And for the curious, we are currently using GPT-2, modified and trained on open subtitles. So, lots of people on the stage. These are examples of previous shows, and we became a multinational with offices, virtual offices, in London, in Edmonton, with Cory, and Montreal. And we met Yanni, who was fascinated by this, and so we did something in Stockholm. And also, Ben in Antwerp. And we basically spend our time starting a show with schlepping lots of laptops on the stage and warming up, and then trying to make everything work. Well, there was some nice coverage. Like, if I was introduced to a show like this as a kid, I would have definitely paid more attention to science talks. That was a nice quote we got. When it didn't work, it was even funnier. Okay. This could be revolutionary, which anyway, I use it anyway because when you have to market your show, you have to whatever it takes. Yeah, and Colin writes something nice as well. So yeah, technology can be seen as a creative constraint. And of course, there are so many other people doing similar kind of work. Actually, in 2016, there was a musical on West End, Beyond the Fence, partly written, literally generated by a recurrent neural network, etc. And the reason why it was, and also there was a film whose script was generated by recurrent neural network, Sunspring, 10-minute film. I mean, the reason why this thing was watchable was because of the humans who justified and basically gave a meaning to that. And essentially what happens is that we as humans give meaning to things, which is why we tend to confuse causation and causality. Correlation and causality. Yeah, it's really confusing. Otherwise, hacking is fun. So it's a tool for creativity and constraint. We had to suspend disbelief. AI works to some extent. We can break the hype. And of course, theater is about sharing the human experience. And the most important is that there is a human in the loop. So at this point, I'm going to stop the talking bit of that, and I'd like to thank you, and also just, well, hustle a little bit, promote a show which is tomorrow night at the Rich Mix, where we do all that with machine translation as well. So we improvise in multiple languages as well. And these are pictures from last night. Anyway, so at this point, we are going to do a little bit of a demo. So first of all, I would like everyone to take a deep breath and lower your expectations. Okay. So the first thing that needs to be done is check that the radio works. So I have a frequency of 88.9. Do you have 88.9? Yes, it's awesome. Perfect. And now we are going to call a volunteer from the audience. A volunteer from the audience. You have been volunteered. Yes. Yes. So I will give you a radio as well. So Paulina is going to improvise. And what Paulina will do is to take all the lines from the chatbot. And I think we hear the radio for some reason. There is interferences with the radio. Can we check the system? Can you send a line? So normally, when we have technical difficulties, we also do a technical difficulty dance. So I'm doing it. Can you hear?
The radio?
Yes. Can you hear the sentences?
No.
OK. Technical difficulty dance. Can I? So theoretically, yes, this is the right frequency. Can you hear now?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. It's working. So let's jump back on the stage.
I can't jump.
OK. Fair enough. And we need from you a suggestion. But actually, before we get suggestions from you, we will warm you up. So on the count of 3, I would like everyone to shout your own name. 1, 2, 3. Piotr. Your own name. That should be easy. 1, 2, 3. Piotr. Yes. On the count of 3, can you all shout your favorite robot name? You have a favorite robot name, don't you? You're coming to the AI talk. 1, 2, 3. BB-8. And thankfully, nobody said Terminator because I find it offensive. Seriously. Anyway, so now we are here, and Paulina and I, we have different names. We are 2 close friends. We haven't seen each other for a very long time. And maybe we'll move the chairs a little bit over there so that we all get close to the radio. So we haven't seen each other for a very long time. And what is the last thing about which we argued, Paulina and I? A reason for arguing. Bumblebees. Bumblebees. So we argued about bumblebees, yes. And we are meeting at a restaurant. What kind of food are we eating? Sushi, perfect. We're eating sushi. OK. Oh, thank you, Samantha. Thank you for coming. I'm sorry, I was really scared you wouldn't want to talk to me anymore.
I want to be stronger.
Oh. OK, sorry. Wow. I already said I apologized. I mean, I know we had the discussion about the biology.
You did not mean I did not know about bumblebees?
No, of course I didn't mean that. No, of course. You know everything. I mean, you've got your PhD in that field, specifically on marine biology, and actually bumblebees on the marine, but that's because I don't know. No, yes, of course. But...
Hey, where's that guy who's sitting next to you?
What? Oh. He left. He left with my bag.
I'm going to get some sleep.
No, I need you to help me. Samantha, that guy just left with my bag. Are you still so angry with me that you don't even want to call the police or help me about this? Sam. Say something, Sam.
I mean, the man that I met 3 years ago. How could I ever love him?
You know that guy? Yeah, but what's going on here? I mean, this is a setup.
You don't have a sense of humor.
No, I'm sorry. I really don't have a end scene. End scene. Thank you very much. And that's it, basically. Thank you. Thank you.